But before we do, love-hate running backs, and it starts with a massive return to Green Bay this weekend. Take a listen to Aaron Jones on what he had to say on the big game and his big return.
Is there any chip on his shoulder, or do we maybe make too much of that?
I always have had a chip on my shoulder since I've been playing football, so I feel like I've always been overlooked or underrated so I've always had a chip on my shoulder, and that's never going to change.
Aaron, have you thought about what it might feel like to score a touchdown at Lambeau in a different uniform?
Of course. Of course. If you're not thinking about the end zone, you're thinking about the wrong thing. No, definitely, and I'm definitely leaping. Definitely leaping up there. It depends on which end zone I'm scoring, but either end zone is not too tall, so it is kind of high up there, but I can still get up there. So either one. Hopefully there's a Vikings fan.
Love-hate, one of the great personalities in the NFL, Aaron Jones, and he penned a thank you to Green Bay in the Players Tribune where he said, "That's the biggest thing I want to write here, not just to the Packers organization, but really to all of Green Bay. Thank you. It's going to feel strange being on that visiting sideline for the first time and being on the other side of this NFC North thing in general, but it's all love and it's so much gratitude. Thanks for betting on me, riding with me, hashtagging for me, and everything else. Thanks for seeing me. No G on the helmet Sunday. Always one in my heart, Aaron."
Number 33 on the field, number 1 in your heart, free Aaron Jones. Listen, he's been nothing short of spectacular this year. This is the kind of thing, Jay Croucher, that happens when you free Aaron Jones. He's averaging 18 touches a game. He's got over 108 scrimmage yards per game. That's his average. And most importantly, not only is he getting the goal line work, right? He's also getting the receiving work. He has a 19.4% target share this season. That is the second most among running backs. They're using him so much in the passing game. Why does that matter in this game against the Packers? Because Green Bay has allowed the 5th most receiving yards to opposing running backs. Free Aaron Jones. Hashtag free Aaron Jones. This is something that I started back on the old Fantasy Focus 06-0 days as well, when Mike McCarthy refused to use Aaron Jones, and it became sort of a running joke on the podcast, and people started doing a lot of things with it, and people started showing up with signs, free Aaron Jones and 06-0 and everything like that. And the reason I bring that up is the Players Tribune article that you mentioned in there. He brings up the fact that I saw the free Aaron Jones hashtag and everything like that, and that really made me happy. That it made him happy. I never knew whether it ever reached his radar.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever knew it, but I've literally been doing that joke for a decade now. And the fact of the matter is it's true. When Aaron Jones gets work, he's always productive. Don't get me started on a Mike McCarthy rant about how, no one's done less with more talent than Mike McCarthy. Don't get me started. But hashtag free Aaron Jones. He's a top 10 play for me this week.
Yep, 100% approval rating for Aaron Jones as a man, as a character, and this season as a fantasy asset. I think the key with the Vikings is that he has shown that he doesn't have to have like workhorse, bell cow type of usage. He can still produce. He's being super efficient this season, as he always is. And he gets a matchup against Green Bay, who got lit up by Saquon Barkley on the ground in week 1 in Brazil, who got quietly lit up by Jonathan Taylor on the ground. It's just the game script. Like, Taylor was incredibly efficient in that game. So I think, I don't really understand this line. Like, the Packers are 3-point favorites over the Vikings. Like, why are the Packers better than the Vikings? Like, the Vikings just eviscerated the Texans.
There are, not to derail this too much, but there are a number of lines this week that are mind-boggling to me, like that one. Like, the Vikings are undefeated, and yet they are giving points. We actually talked about this yesterday. We said, Jay always says home field is 1.5 points, right? That's what it's worth. But for the Packers to be to be giving points to the Vikings, for them to be a favorite, the Vikings getting points, an undefeated Vikings team seems very weird to me. Like the fact that the Bills are getting points from the Ravens, that the Bills are underdogs. Even my Commanders. My Commanders are 2-1. The Cardinals are 1-2, and yet the Cardinals are favored by 3.5. In this one, like there's a number of scenarios like that.
I don't really understand why the Saints are 1.5 point dogs to the Falcons as well.
That's another one. Yes.
I think a lot of this is it's skepticism about Sam Darnold and the expectation Jordan Love is going to come back, and the fact that there is a chance like Jordan Love might be like the 6th best quarterback in football, and I think there's still like Sam Darnold might be 20th or whatever. Maybe he's a little bit better than that now. So that is the gap. Love at home, but still Vikings might have the best defense in the sport.
1,000%. We don't know if Jordan Love's going to be 100% healthy. This was expected to be an injury that was going to take much longer, and he's shortened the time frame, which is great for Jordan Love. and the pass catchers there. But still, it's like, to your point, the Vikings have a very good defense. The Vikings have been nothing short of terrific, and it's not like the Vikings haven't beat anyone. I mean, they just, they beat San Francisco. They beat, why am I blanking on who they beat last week?
The Texans.
The Texans, yeah, they eviscerated the Texans. Like, wasn't even close. So
they
it's
crushed
a weird
the New York
line.
Football Giants, division winners to be. 28-6. That actually looks like a much more impressive
A better win
Yeah.
today, yes, it does, than it started the season. Last thing on this, and then we'll move on, I promise you guys. But I'm curious what you think about this. I have a friend, he's a longtime sports bettor, and he has this rule. And I sort of agree with the rule. He goes, after week 3 of the NFL season, he goes, anytime a team with a winning record is getting points from a team that has a worse record, you bet it. It doesn't matter how ugly it looks. It doesn't matter how stinky you're like, I can't believe this, but you bet it. He goes, and it works out about 66, 70% of the time.
Great record.
I think the thing is with all these kind of like trends and kind of suppositions like that is they make you ask questions. They make you ask the right questions, then you can interrogate it from there. And I don't think people really appreciate how good the Vikings defense is yet. And also, we just don't know what Jordan Love's going to look like. By the way, Jordan Love looked terrible in week 1. He did not look good against the Eagles at all. And I get it's Brazil, strange field, everything. Jordan Love's probably going to be fine, but I don't know, it's a tough defense to come up against.
I bet the Vikings, getting the points. I bet the Bills. I bet the Saints. I bet the Commanders. Like, all these teams with better records getting points. Give me all of them.
Our next running back, James Conner, he's got the Commanders. Jay, the Commanders right now are allowing over 5 yards per carry to running backs this season.
Yeah, and James Conner, he's kind of been screwed by game context a little bit, certainly against the Lions, who have a great rush defense. Well, the Commanders don't have a great anything defense.
No.
That is this Commanders team, and I believe in Jaden Daniels. He's been remarkable through 3 weeks. This is one of the great over teams in the history of sports, this Washington team, because Daniels and the offense have been so good and there's nothing fluky about Daniels. We'll get to that at some point, but just on a per drive basis, they've been incredible. And the defense just has nothing. Like, there's just nothing there with the defense. Like, I'm not sure who really the above average players are on the defense. I'm not sure what the hope is there. And so the Cardinals, the total is in the low 50s for this one. And James Conner should be efficient and should be in scoring position.
2 good offenses against 2 bad defenses. We saw what happened on Monday night when the exact same thing happened. Bengals and Commanders. So we expect a lot of points to be scored here. And most importantly, James Conner, who's had at least 19 touches in 2 of the 3 games this year. He had only 10 last week, but remember, Arizona only had the ball for like 23 minutes. The Lions just, controlled the clock there. The reason I bring up the 19 touches, running backs that have gotten at least 17 touches against my Commanders are averaging 17.3 fantasy points per game. They're giving up 5.2 yards per carry to running backs. We just saw Zach Moss run all over them as well. So give me James Conner as a top 10 play this week as well, and I feel pretty good about his chances of falling into the end zone.
Zach Moss, a top 20 play for you, Matthew. He's got the Panthers, and the thing with Zach Moss is right now he gets all the goal line work. He gets almost all of the red zone work as well in this backfield.
And they're also using him somewhat in the passing game as well. I think, we're starting to see some of these running back committees start a better player emerge, right? I mean, so, we'll get to it tonight, but we're seeing Rico Dowdle sort of separate himself a little bit from Ezekiel Elliott. Bucky Irvin is coming. Rashad White managers, backup producer Pete talking to you. Watch out because Bucky Irving is coming. And then we're seeing it in Cincinnati where the preseason buzz was, Chase Brown is going to run away with his job, and that has not happened. It's been Zach Moss, whose touches have increased every single week this season. He's got a 75% snap rate, which is 6th best among running backs. 75% of the snaps for a good offense. And to your point, Connor, 100% of the team's goal line rushes, when they get in close, they're giving it to Zach Moss, who has 11 of the 12 running back red zone touches as well. And now they go on the road to Carolina, where the Panthers are bottom 5 of the NFL in terms of most rush yards allowed and most rushing touchdowns allowed to running backs. Zach Moss, top 20 play for me this week.
All right, another one here, guys, as a couple others receive votes. We got Devin Singletary tonight on Thursday Night Football. We've seen how much that Cowboys front seven has really struggled, and Singletary gets a lot of volume in Brian Daboll's offense. Najee Harris, as the Steelers are dealing with injuries, a specific knee injury to Jaylen Warren right now. And then Rico Dowdle, as you mentioned, Matthew, it just feels like his workload increases as Ezekiel Elliott's goes down. Consecutive
games with double-digit touches and a double-digit target share for Rico Dowdle. Giants allow the 3rd most yards per carry to running backs. They're giving up 5.3. This game is on the road, short week at New York. You expect them to lean on Dowdle somewhat. And then it's 2 of Jay's guys right there. Devin Singletary of his beloved New York Giants and your boy Najee.
Yeah, Najee against the Colts, who have not been great in run defense this year. They've set Joe Mixon alight for the greatest game of week 1. So certainly you love the matchup there. This Steelers team is just going to continue to lean on the run. That is a team that has maybe the most fixed identity in the league right now in offense, where they're just going to pound the rock. They're going to win with defense. And then Devin Singletary, it's a weird one with Dallas, because Dallas, obviously the run defense has been catastrophic. At the same time, run defense, Connor, is probably the easiest thing to just fix schematically, and that they can just load the box and just put more people in there and then dare Daniel Jones to beat them.
Right. We had this combo when the Jets got demolished by San Francisco week 1, and then you look at what other teams try to do to them. Schematically, you just load the box and try to stop the run. But I will say to this, one thing I do like with the Giants this year is they have a really good screen game going, where maybe that does kind of keep you off balance of how you oversell against the run. So I think Singletary's in for a big night. I really, really like his numbers tonight.
Also worth noting, we're not expecting Jalen Warren to play on Sunday as well, which also increases Najee Harris. You'll see some more Cordero Patterson as well, but no team has allowed more rushing yards to running backs than the Indianapolis Colts.
We move to the hate list. Devon Achane,
That is.
still a top 15 play, but the Titans, Matthew, have been really good against the run with not just Jeffrey Simmons in the middle, but rookie T'Vondre Sweat. And the fact is, Miami doesn't have much of a threat under center to help their run game either.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Titans, you're sitting there going, like, what do we need to stop? We need to, we're not worried about we don't know if it's going to be Tim Boyle or Tyler Huntley or Skylar Thompson under center just yet, but the Dolphins have the 4th lowest implied team total in week 4. This game has a 37 over-under as well. We're just not expecting it. To your point about that defense on Tennessee, they're giving up just 3.7 yards per carry to running backs this season. Devon Achane looked human on the road at Seattle last week as well. And so look, you're still starting Devon Achane. I want to be clear about this. You're still starting him. I'm at running back 11. But relative to expectations, when we saw Tua go down, we're like, oh, here's this explosive player who's not going to get a massive workload, wheels up for Devon Achane. And that just isn't the case. Just this offense isn't good enough. They're not going to be on the field long enough. They're not going to sustain drives long enough. Achane becomes more of a RB2 than kind of the top 5 guy that his talent and the workload with Mostert banged up would suggest he could be, if they had a starting quarterback that we felt good about.
And Jay, we talk about this a lot. Teron Armstead, when he gets hurt, this is a different offense. He has 3 different injuries, 3 games into the season right now. That hurts Achane as well.
Yeah, definitely. And look, for as much criticism as Tua Tagovailoa takes, and look, I don't think Tua is a top 7, top 8 quarterback, but I certainly think he's an above average quarterback. Like, with him out, this team going into the season was thought of as a Super Bowl contender, basically like a joint favorite for the AFC East with the Jets and the Bills. Now he's out, and all of a sudden the market is rating this team as basically the worst team in football right now, the Dolphins. Like, their pick at home against an 0-3 Titans team that's coming off a horrific loss. So that's where they're
on Monday Night Football.
It's not ideal. These two teams also played a ridiculous, I think, Monday Night Football game last year where Will Levis led the Titans back. But look, it's Achane, Tyreek, you still have to start these guys, but I don't think you're doing it with great confidence. And guys, I mean, we'll talk about it at some point, but Jalen Waddle, I don't feel good about anyone else in Miami.
No, you certainly do not.
J.K. Dobbins potentially dealing with a tough situation this week as well, Jay, as we keep an eye on Justin Herbert's status going into the game. It's totally up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, so the Chiefs, they've been very successful against running backs this season in terms of yards accumulation. Now, historically, the past couple of years, they haven't been elite in terms of a per-play basis, but they're the Chiefs, and they're always playing with a lead, and thus it's very hard for running backs to compile stats against them. And I do think last week they found something with Spags. They clearly made the decision. Bijan Robinson is not going to beat us. Bijan was 16 carries for 31 yards. You keep Bijan Robinson to under 2 yards per carry. That's pretty impressive for your run defense. And so I think with Dobbins, here's what I think is going to happen. I think he's going to have a poor game because they're going to be trailing and they're not going to have the script. Then I would try and trade for J.K. Dobbins because quietly he had 15 carries to, I believe, Gus Edwards 3 last week. It looks like he's going to be the guy in this backfield. And I think the Chargers, they're probably going to lose this game. He's probably not going to do a great deal. But then they have the bye to get healthier. And I think Dobbins could be in for a big rest of the season.
I like that call as well. Not only did they hold Bijan Robinson to a low total, they also did that to Derrick Henry, obviously, in the season opener against the Ravens. And to your point, again, with whether it's Taylor Heineke, either one-legged Justin Herbert or Taylor Heineke under center, or the stick man, whoever is under center for the Bolts, you don't feel great about the offense against the Chiefs in this one as well. So J.K. Dobbins outside my top 20 for the week does make the hate list.
Ramondre Stevenson, guys, also on the hate list. Matthew, this one's pretty simple. The Patriots have the lowest implied team total going into Week 4. That shouldn't surprise anyone.
And they're on the road at San Francisco, a suddenly desperate San Francisco team. They're 1-2. They're 1-2. They need to win this week. The Patriots are the biggest underdog in Week 4, so game script obviously not in his favor. When the Patriots played it close in Weeks 1 and 2, he got 20 or more touches. In that Week 3 loss to the Jets, he got 6 touches. And so that's the concern here, is on the road at San Francisco. You don't expect them to be competitive in this game as well. Like feels like they got exposed a little bit on Thursday night with the Jets. And again, Kyle Shanahan, yes, they might not have Kittle, they may not have Debo, but whatever. They're going to put up points.
And they could have Kittle. Kittle was limited early in the week, but we need to keep an eye on that one.
I think, too, now that we're 3 games in, we can start to adjust for opponent a little bit. And we learn more from previous matchups. And a lot of the Patriots, a lot of their kind of production this season was in Week 1 against the Bengals, who look like they might have a bottom 3, bottom 4 defense in football at the moment.
That's a good point.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com. And I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched. Or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.